In the story, a hot girl asks her master why he is so nervous. She says she hasn't seen him before, so he guesses it must be his first time there. She tells him that he truly is generous because he called 3 of them to serve him even though it's his first time there. Then a girl tells him there's no need to be nervous. She comes closer to him, to which his heart races. She tells him that he can leave everything to her. She says all he needs to do is to enjoy it. One of them tells him that she'll take good care of him. So she tells him to just allow her to savor him. She draws his soul out through his mouth, and a toxic foam erupts from his lips, signaling his instant demise. Afterward, his head hurts. He wonders if he is starting to hallucinate from working too much, but then, he wonders where that place is. He wonders how he got there, as he was working overtime. But then, he sees a beautiful flower. Meanwhile, in the royal castle, someone tells people to leave the area quickly because the exorcist department is handling a case. A guard says that everyone there must come out for an inspection. He says no one is allowed to leave without permission. Guard tells the chief that they have finished sealing off the spring night pavilion and everyone is now waiting to be questioned. The chief asks them about any discoveries, to which the guard mentions that they found a man's body in the hall. But one of them tells her that there's something strange about his dead body. They say that young man must have a lot of energy, even in death, he still has a boner. Then the guard tells the chief that he brought her there. Lady tells the chief that the guest only died while having intercourse. She asks her if there is really a need to dispatch so many of her men there. But the chief says she has her own suspicions about the cause of his death. She asks those 3 girls if they were with him. The girl tells him that his death has nothing to do with them. She mentions that they were just serving Jim normally when he suddenly started to convulse and foam at the mouth. Another one says he can only blame himself for getting too excited since it's his first time there. Then the chief wonders how the situation outside is. Then a female guard tells the chief not to worry because the seals are in place. She says she can guarantee that not a single fly will be able to get out. Chief thinks he indeed died during intercourse, however, she notices that his forehead is a greenish-black color and his body is withered. She says it's more likely that his yang energy was completely sucked out by a demon. In addition, she notices that the evil seeker is showing that there's evil there. She tells the 3 girls that they were there at the time of his death, so it's likely that the demon is hiding amongst the 3 of them. Then his banana makes more movements. The chief notices that something is moving. Then she removes the cover of the body. Then she sees a flower. Other guards wonder if that guy banana bloomed into a flower. Then, the guy from the other dimension and the chief together touch that flower. And the flowers glowed. They both get shocked. The flowers show them who's the demon girl. They see that one of those 3 girls is a demon, like a snake dragon. He opens his eyes suddenly, and he shockingly wakes up. Everyone standing there wonders if it was a fake corpse. The protagonist's head really hurts. He wonders if that was a nightmare. He guesses that he's too tired from working overtime. But then, he looks at his surroundings. He wonders where he is. He thinks about why those people are wearing ancient Chinese costumes. Then he looks at the chief and questions her who she is, but she also questions him if he is not dead. Then he notices her hand on his banana, and he asks her what she is doing. His banana blushes. Chief takes her hand off his banana and feels embarrassed. He wonders why he is suddenly naked in front of those people wearing fancy costumes. But then, he realizes that he is transmigrated. And Chief is wondering if he came back from the dead or if he was faking his death before. But then, the demon comes into its real form. She smiles and says who would have thought that he managed to survive. Chief notices that the demon is going to kill him. Then she tells our protagonist to get away from there. She tells him to move. But then, the demon girl grabs his neck. Demon girl tells others to stay still, and the moment one of them even dares to take a step, she'll rip out his neck. The protagonist cries and says he has only transmitted there, and he hasn't opened the system, picked a master, and reached the peak of his life yet. He cries and says he doesn't want to die again. But the demon girl grabs his neck more tightly, to which he feels choked. But he realizes that he's not wearing any clothes. But at the same time, demon girl Melon squeezes on his back. He feels so soft, then, he can't control it anymore. Those guards say that this guy is really extraordinary because he can still get his banana up even in this kind of situation. He feels very embarrassed and tries to hide his boner. He says he has experienced a lot over 30 years of his life, but he'd have never expected that one day his banana would be shown in full view. She emotionally asks the demon lady why she doesn't give him a quick death so that he will just transmigrate to the next world. But she squeezes his neck and angrily tells him to shut up. Meanwhile, the guard tells the lady to kill him if she wants because the exorcist department only cares about the final words of a demon anyway. He says it's none of their business if he dies or not. Furthermore, the guard mentions that the casualties are unavoidable, so as long as they can exterminate the demon, sacrificing a few people is acceptable. The protagonist gets worried, and he asks them if they are joking with him. The guards tell the demon lady to kill him first, then they will capture her and report back to the leader, as they have to hurry home to their children, so they request her to quickly get it over with. The demon lady and protagonist get disappointed. The demon lady angrily tells them not to try to fool her. She asks them if they really think she won't dare to kill him, to which he screams and tells her not to use so much strength. Then the chief gazes at the female guard. She smiles and says she got it. She takes out an evil eye. She shouts and tells the demon lady to look over there. The demon lady gets shocked to see that, and she can't control that body anymore because she can't move. Then the chief dashes and hits the demon lady with a hunter, to which the protagonist frees from her grip, and he escapes. The female guard smiles and says that Devil Eye's ability to capture souls is really amazing. The protagonist bleeds and says he almost got strangled to death. He thinks that he's really unlucky to get thrown into this kind of situation the moment he transmigrated her. But then, the demon lady unleashes her strength. The guards get amazed to see that she is still able to move even after looking at the devil edge. They say it looks like the danger level of this demon is above yellow grade. The female guard tells others to be careful because this demon is able to suppress the effects of the devil eye. Meanwhile, the demon lady says that she didn't want to waste her energy after painstakingly recovering it. But she says it seems like all they want to do is die, so she tells them not to blame her. She aggressively says there is no heavy master around. So she says what a bunch of martial artists can do to her. The chief says this is bad because she's a demon who knows the illusion art. Then she notices that she concealed herself. The demon tells them that without the heavenly arts, none of them can see through her illusion. She says they all are just pigs waiting to be slaughtered. Then she comes near a guard and tells him to let her taste it. Then suddenly, she kills him instantly without a second thought. The protagonist gets shocked to see that, and he wonders why he didn't dodge it. The demon lady unleashes a flurry of brutal slashes, ripping through the guard's defenses. She smiles sadistically, taunting him about his weakness. With effortless precision, the demon lady dodges every desperate attack the guard launches. The chief sees that the demon disappeared again. She thinks the fact that the demon hid there after she escaped from prison proves that she hasn't recovered her strength. She believes they should be able to easily subdue her after dispelling her illusion arts. She tells Wendong to try to take her show herself. Wendong says the demon lady is a tricky opponent. If she can resist the devil eye, she tells the chief to give her an incense stick of time, and she will create a talisman to break her illusion arts. The chief agrees and says she will protect her. She calls Lao Xing and Hua Xing to look after Xiao Fu. Then Lao Xing and Xing rush to Xiao Fu. But the demon lady comes and tells them that they are the next. But they find that good timing. They draw their sword and charge at the demon. Xiao Fu tells the demon that they knew she'd take the opportunity to attack. He asks her if she thinks they are stupid. But then, he feels something odd. When Dong realizes something, and she mentions that the demon lady can also make people hallucinate, she tells these two not to look into her eyes. But the demon captured them in her trap. Lao Xing sees his chief in a short dress, to which he blushes. And Xiao Fai sees a bodybuilder man in shorts. They both feel a heartwarming feeling. The protagonist sees them and wonders why they are suddenly in a daze and have lewd faces. But then, he understands that the demon is attacking again, and he tells them to get out of the way. The demon lady launches a ferocious assault on them. The chief intervenes, striking the demon lady with Hunter, but she dodges by splitting her body in two, leaving the chief questioning if it's a clone. The chief realizes the demon lady's true target was Wendong all along. Wendong seizes the moment, completing the talisman. Her eyes ignite with determination as she channels magic into the talisman. With a swift motion, when Dawn casts the talisman, hurling it straight at the demon lady. The demon lady, undeterred, charges towards the chief. The protagonist swiftly reacts, throwing a stone that hits the demon lady's hand, disrupting her balance. The demon lady stumbles, and the chief capitalizes, spotting her suspended in midair. She wonders who threw that stone. He is hiding behind the pillar in fear, requesting her not to notice him. The demon thinks that the protagonist is a bit strange, so she should kill him first. The protagonist's fear starts increasing. He wonders why it is suddenly so quiet, guessing if she already left. But then, she comes behind him and asks him if it is fun to throw stones. She tells him that he must have felt lonely since she has only been keeping the others company. She mentions she was tricked by his fake death. So she aggressively says this time, she will kill him for sure. But she notices that he is not there. She wonders where he went. Then he feels some hands on her melons. She sees that he is sticking to her, grabbing her around. She blushes and tells him to go of her, but the protagonist thinks his body just reacted by itself. He tells her that he is not that stupid, because he knows if he let her go, she would kill him for sure. He tells her that he will not release her even if he dies. The demon lady feels weird because he is grabbing her melons so tightly. She gets triggered and calls him lecherous. She tells him that since he can't control his dirty hand, she will just break them off. But suddenly, a hunter comes flying, and it grabs her neck. The chief says she finally caught her. But the protagonist's shoulder gets dislocated. He breaks free from the demon lady's grasp, plummeting to the ground. His head crashes against the floor, and he winces in agony, suspecting his arm is dislocated. Despite the pain, his gaze falls upon the talisman lying nearby. Meanwhile, the demon lady crashes to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, Chief draws her sword. She leaps into action, launching a swift attack. The demon lady dodges with ease, evading Chief's strike. She thinks that she shouldn't fight recklessly since she can't heal right now. Then she tells the chief to just wait, and she will get even with her. She opens the door, but it didn't open. She gets confused. She notices there is a barrier. Suddenly, the chief grabs her from the hunter. She drags her to the ground and aims her sword to kill her. Demon Lady horrifically tells her that she gave her no chance. Then she transforms into her true, terrifying form, a colossal, horrific dragon. The demonic dragon unleashes its lengthy tongue, flailing it with malevolent intent. The dragon's thunderous roar echoes, shaking the air. The chief sees that it's the demon wolf that escaped from Xuan Sect prison. No wonder it's so strong. The demon wolf tells her to regret what she has brought upon herself. Lao Xing and Xiaofu mistakenly look into the demon wolf's eyes, and they get hallucinated. They see their dream love. They find themselves in the arms of their crush. And surprisingly, they start kissing each other. The protagonist wonders why the hell they are kissing each other in this situation. He doesn't think that Chief can endure any longer because the demon looks so strong. He believes if that demon wins, she will definitely kill him next. The chief thinks that demon should be in the peak of the new moon realm, and now that she's been backed into a corner, she's not holding back her strength anymore. She thinks she's been wounded, so she shouldn't push herself too hard. She needs to find a point to break the deadlock. Meanwhile, the protagonist thinks he will have to gamble on this. Luckily, that Nodi martial arts skills seem to be good. He dashes behind the demon, reasoning that suddenly attaching the talisman will suffice. The demon spins around, detecting his presence, and unleashes a swift attack. He agilely dodges the assault. Seizing the opening, he slaps the talisman onto the demon's chest. The demon recognizes the Taoist symbol and lets out a blood-curdling scream. Capitalizing on the demon's distress, Chief draws her sword. With a swift, precise strike, Chief slashes the demon's neck. The demon's head separates from its body, and blood gushes forth. But the demon tells him that she will take him with her. But the chief kicks its head and says she is not telling him. The protagonist is amazed to see that he says that kick can definitely earn her a spot on the national team. But then, he wonders why the demon is coming there. The demon bites him, to which he says this is foul play. And suddenly, a blast happens. Afterward, the chief thinks it's strange because even though she used strength just now, the force shouldn't be that powerful. She cannot sense her anymore, to which she thinks the demon has already spent all her energy. But then, she wonders where did that guy go? Alright crew! We're done here. If you enjoyed the ride, drop a like and subscribe. Stay fresh, and see you next time. The protagonist narrowly avoids being crushed by the demon's head, his quick reflexes saving him just in time. Unsure if the demon is dead, he decides it's safer to flee. Leaping across rooftops bathed in the silvery glow of the moon, he eventually arrives at an ancient house. He follows his body's intuition, realizing that the original owner's memories are a mess, likely because he has just transmigrated. He understands that the original owner was named Lu Lingyun and was the leader of a sect. Despite being the sect leader, the sect has fallen to the point where he is the only one left. He sighs, lamenting his continued bad luck even after transmigrating, but trembles with excitement at the novelty of his situation. Prioritizing his immediate needs, he decides to find clothes and someone to fix his injured arm. Shamelessly, he walks inside the mansion, peeking through the door, which suddenly shuts. He forgot that the broken door would fall with even a slight touch. Then, he notices a foot and wonders whose it is. Gazing upward, he locks eyes with a horrific figure looming above. The figure's piercing stare sends a chill down his spine. With a jolt, the figure drops from the sky, landing heavily before him. The protagonist wonders what it is, but then a hamster-looking old man gets emotional, recognizing the sect leader. The protagonist, confused, asks who he is. The old man introduces himself as Tu Wang, an old servant, and emotionally asks if the protagonist doesn't recognize him anymore. Smiling, the protagonist explains that he didn't see him properly in the dark and asks what happened and why Wang hanged himself. Wang explains that he was cleaning the temple when he noticed the sect leader's soul lamp wasn't burning, leading him to believe the sect leader had died. Thinking it was the end of the Xuan Sect, he decided to accompany the sect leader in death. However, it seems the soul lamp was just broken, a false alarm. Internally, the protagonist knows the soul lamp isn't broken, the sect leader is truly dead, and he is just an unlucky guy who took over his body. Wang then asks where he went and why he returned naked and injured. The protagonist smiles, explaining that he encountered a demon and decided to fight it, resulting in his clothes being shredded. He assures Wang that his injuries are minor, but screams when Wang touches his wound. Wang seems doubtful that he really killed a demon but then declares that their Xuan sect has been blessed, laughing and calling it an auspicious day. The protagonist, puzzled by Wang's excitement, wonders if he is crazy. Wang grabs his hand and starts running, telling him to quickly wear some clothes and follow him to the ancestral hall to pay respects to their ancestors. Afterward, the protagonist wears new clothes, relieved not to be naked anymore, and his arm is fixed. He wonders why the old hamster man brought him there. Tu Wang stands near the treasure fortune, telling the protagonist that he has waited many years for this day. Today, he will receive the inheritance and become the true sect leader of the Xuan sect. The protagonist, skeptical, asks what kind of inheritance a sect with only one member could have. Wang tells him not to belittle himself, explaining that 500 years ago, the Xuan sect was the #1 sect in the world, but it gradually faded away. Amazed, the protagonist learns about the sect's former glory. Wang expresses his belief that the protagonist will restore the sect's greatness. Excitedly, the protagonist asks if he will receive a heaven-defying weapon, but Wang denies it, explaining that all such items were lost over the years. The protagonist then asks if he will learn peerless martial arts, but Wang again denies it, explaining that the sect's martial arts were passed down from the sect leader, and the previous leaders died too early to pass them on. Frustrated, the protagonist angrily declares that there is nothing left. Wang explains that the Xuan sect has a tradition where passing a trial allows one to enter the inner chamber and receive the inheritance. The trial involves killing a demon with one's own hands. Since the protagonist already killed a demon, Wang tells him to try feeling if his body has changed. The protagonist says he feels nothing. Wang then remembers something, mentioning that the previous leader left behind a token for future sect leaders, which might be the key to receiving the inheritance. He finds it inside a weird frog. The protagonist asks if the weird hat is the sect leader's relic. Angrily, he throws the hat to the ground, calling it a worn-out green hat. Wang tells him not to do that, explaining that although it looks like an old hat, the previous sect leader wouldn't leave such a normal item as his inheritance. He requests the protagonist to try putting it on, hoping for unexpected effects. The protagonist puts on the hat but, frustrated, throws it again, declaring it useless. Wing tells him to calm down, suggesting that the reason might be because the soul lamp isn't lit. He tells the protagonist to try the hat again after they light the soul lamp. Arrogantly, the protagonist agrees to try one last time. Wing strikes the soul lamp with force, and a brilliant blue light erupts, illuminating the surroundings. Suddenly, the protagonist sees something in his shadow. The demon lady emerges, and the protagonist asks who she is. The demon lady reminds him that they met a while ago, but he has already forgotten her. Meanwhile, the guards, blushing, asked each other if they had just kissed. However, the chief aggressively told them to stop idling around and find out where that guy came from, to which they agreed. The chief thought that the guy seemed unaffected by the illusion arts of the demon, believing he was not a simple person. Meanwhile, the protagonist was scared to see that the demon lady was still alive and wondered why she looked different now. The demon lady told him that his words were hurtful and asked if he really wanted her to die. The protagonist laughed and told her that he was worried about her, but it looked like she was okay, so that was great. He then told her that since she was not in danger anymore, she should quickly go home and stop following him already. However, she asked why he was so anxious to chase her back and said she wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with him. He told her it was already late and decided to talk next time. But she insisted that he had made her life really difficult and asked how he was going to compensate her. At that moment, Wing interrupted, asking how she dared to try and seduce the sect leader. She aggressively told him to get lost. Wang, scared, agreed with her and quickly ran away. The protagonist called him back, asking what happened to his loyalty. The demon lady reminded him that he still hadn't answered her question. So, he asked her what kind of compensation she wanted. She smiled and told him she wanted his life, then transformed into the demon wolf. She bit him, telling him to let his blood warm up her broken heart. The protagonist wondered if he was going to die again. He thought about rent, wedding money, borrowed goods, working overtime. It felt like he was being drained all the time. He hadn't protested, complained, and always accepted it until he died. He laughed, saying he really lived like a coward. It hurt, it really hurt him. He said that in the past, he was so cowardly that he couldn't feel anything anymore. He decided he didn't want to be like that again. He declared he would live for himself in this life now. For anyone who dared to bite him, he would bite back, and for anyone who dared to suck his blood, he would suck back twice as much. For anyone who deceived him, he would pay back 100-fold. The protagonist unleashed his immense power, channeling it into his body. His body erupted in a brilliant radiance, illuminating everything around him. He felt a flood of information suddenly entering his brain and wondered if this was the secret arts of the Xuan Sect. He realized that the worn-out hat wasn't useless, the Xuan Sect inheritance was really inside it. Wing congratulated him for obtaining the Xuan Sect inheritance, happily saying the glory of the Xuan Sect would be regained soon. But the protagonist angrily asked if he still had the face to come back after running away just now. Wing explained that he just wanted to create an opportunity for him to kill the demon and help him obtain the Xuan Sect inheritance. The protagonist arrogantly told him he would believe him. Wing then congratulated him for becoming the Xuan Sect's 44th sect leader. The protagonist thought he had accidentally inherited a peerless martial art after transmigrating, which was more like what the protagonist of a story would get. Wing then told him that since he had become an official disciple of the Xuan Sect, he would have to tell him some secrets about the sect. The protagonist wondered if it could be some amazing secret treasure that he wanted him to collect. Wing asked if he knew why their Xuan Sect, which was once number one, had fallen to this extent. The protagonist guessed it could be because of a black sheep, but Wing refused and said it was because of a curse. The protagonist was shocked and asked what curse. Wing mentioned that all the Xuan Sect's disciples would be haunted by bad luck and die an unnatural death. He said the sect had been under the effects of the curse for a long time and gradually weakened until only one person was left. The protagonist was shocked and said what kind of curse could kill off almost everyone from one of the strongest sects in the world. Wing explained that nobody knew where the curse came from, except that it became more powerful as time went on. He mentioned that very few disciples lived past 50 years old. As the people in the sect lessened, the disciples started dying earlier and earlier. He mentioned that the previous sect leader died before he even reached his 30s. The protagonist, shocked, asked Tuoing how long he had left. Then he coughed and said he suddenly discovered he had hemorrhoids. Now that he had a chronic disease, he couldn't be the sect leader anymore, so he told Tuoing to find someone else to take over. But Tuoing told him that the moment one becomes a disciple of the Xuan Sect, they would be cursed, and even if they left the sect, the curse would not disappear. The protagonist, triggered, grabbed Tuoing's neck and angrily asked why he didn't tell him about this curse earlier. Tuoing told him to calm down, saying not all was lost yet. He mentioned there was still a way to counter the curse. The protagonist asked about the way. Tuoing told him to give birth, which shocked him. Tuoing informed the protagonist that, according to the previous sect leader, increasing the number of people in the sect would weaken the curse, and producing children was more effective than accepting disciples. He explained that as long as the protagonist had a child, half of the curse would be transferred over, and the more children he had, the weaker the curse's power would become. The protagonist, puzzled, asked why the other sect leaders hadn't done this. Tuoing revealed that the curse also affected their ability in that area, and it was difficult for the Xuan Sect's disciples to have children. Understanding this, the protagonist realized that the sect had become the Eastern Depot. However, Tuoing reassured him, saying that from his observations, the protagonist would have no issues in that area. The protagonist made a weird face and asked what Tuoing had done to know such things. Tuoing then told him that all this indicated he was the chosen one who would make the Xuan Sect rise again. The protagonist wondered if he had to become a stallion to keep his life but thought that for the future of the sect, he didn't mind sacrificing himself a bit. He nosebled and decided not to think about it anymore. He mentioned that he had only received 2 inheritances just now, Shin Arts and the 7 Emotions sword. He lamented that a sect once the number 1 was left with only a martial arts skill and a sword manual, which was really sad. However, he acknowledged that if he understood them well enough, those 2 were actually advanced arts. He guessed that if he could integrate those 2 martial arts, it would be enough for him to walk in this world unafraid of anything. He thought that the demon lady should have been devoured by his Shin arts. He mentioned that increasing the strength of this skill didn't require the absorption of chi but rather the energy of the demons it devoured. He guessed that only such an art was worthy of being the number 1 sect's core martial art. He said that if it weren't for this downside effect, the Xuan Sect wouldn't have become like that. He added that this martial art also summoned demons. Just then, the demon lady emerged, asking what he had done to her. He mentioned that the demons he devoured could be controlled by him. The demon lady threatened to kill him, but he stated that demons could be absolutely suppressed by him. He told her not to struggle unnecessarily if she didn't want to die and demanded that she answer his questions without playing any tricks. She agreed, and he released her, to which she thanked him. He asked her where she came from and why she was killing people in the city. She replied that her name was Chi Mang, and she had no choice but to kill people in the city. She explained that she had escaped from the Exorcist Department's prison and wanted to leave Jiangzhou, but a barrier was set up around the city, preventing her from getting out. She had to hide in a building, and due to her injuries and depletion of power, she had to absorb essence. It was then that she met a person who promised to free her as long as she helped him. She told the protagonist that she had never harmed anyone before and this was the first time, so she requested him to let her go. The protagonist wondered if there was a mysterious person who wanted to harm him, possibly an enemy of the original owner of his body. He asked her who he looked like. She mentioned that the man was covered in blackness, and she couldn't even tell if that person was male or female. He asked her what realm she was in and what special abilities she had. She revealed that her original form was a demon wolf, and she was at the peak of the new moon realm. Her ability was to create illusions and hallucinations. He noticed a faint aura around her and asked if that wasn't her original appearance. She smiled and told him he was perceptive, mentioning that she had another ability that allowed her to change any appearance. She said she could turn into those girls or any form he liked. He got a nosebleed and told her to just use the appearance she had before. She agreed and asked if he could give her a physical body so she could better serve him. He blushed, thinking that her body was also really beautiful. Internally, he admitted he wanted to give her a physical body but didn't have the means to do so at the moment. He told her to leave first, and if she did well next time, he would consider giving her a physical body and letting her roam free. She thanked him, promising not to disappoint him. The next day, hunger woke him up. Tuoing called him to come and have breakfast. The protagonist was shocked to see that they only had one carrot for breakfast. Tuoing insisted that the four of them would share the carrot. The protagonist was further shocked to see such a meager meal. Tuoing explained that to celebrate, he had specially brought out 1 day's worth of food. He sighed, saying they had no choice because the sect didn't have a source of income, so they could only dig for wild vegetables to eat. The protagonist asked why they couldn't just plant their own vegetables and food since they had such a big mountain. But then, someone called Tu Wang, demanding the protection fee. The protagonist asked who they were. Tu Wang mentioned it was a group of mountain bandits occupying several hills nearby. Every 2 days, they came to collect protection money. If they couldn't pay the fee, the bandits wouldn't let them make a field and would also beat them up. Tu Wang advised that a wise man doesn't fight when the odds are against him and suggested they sneak out and lay low until the bandits left. However, the protagonist was already heading out. He seized the bandits' hands, and a jolt of electricity coursed through his body. Undeterred, the protagonist applied a precise martial arts technique to the bandit's forehead. The bandit's head compressed under the intense pressure, his eyes bulging in agony. With a swift motion, the protagonist sent the bandit soaring backward. The bandit crashed to the ground with a resounding thud. The protagonist understood that this was the difference between a normal person and a cultivator. A bandit asked his brother Fu what had happened to him. Triggered, he charged at the protagonist, but brother Fu grabbed his hand, saying the wind was too strong. They decided to let him go for now and would find another time to get back at him. However, the protagonist saw that they had broken the tree he had planted with his own hands. He aggressively demanded they pay for it. The bandits were shocked to hear that. He then took away their clothes and asked why they didn't bring more money if they came to rob others. He told them to get lost. The bandits cried, saying they had been disgraced. Afterward, the protagonist gave Tuoing some silver and told him to buy some food and not eat wild vegetables every day. Tuoing was happy and praised the protagonist's unparalleled martial arts for strengthening their Xuan Sect. But then, they noticed a figure standing at the gate. The protagonist wondered if the bandits had returned. He threw an apple at the figure, asking how they dared to come back. Surprisingly, a female chief grabbed the apple, shocking the protagonist. Alright crew! We're done here. If you enjoyed the ride, drop a like and subscribe. Stay fresh, and see you next time.